Ladies and gentlemen, this bout is scheduled for 10 rounds. Fighting tonight out of the red corner, he comes to the ring wearing blue, red, and yellow, and weighed in.
Two massive heavyweights here in bakole and ajagba, and you're right, Chris, that this feels like one of those, the winner moves on in the heavyweight bracket type fights.
So two red flags about bakole. One is, how did he bounce back from that second round knockout? I know it was only one punch, there wasn't a lot of wear and tear, but this is a quick turnaround. The other is the weight, 299 pounds Martin Bakole tipped the scales at. Now that's less than the 310 he weighed for the last fight, but it's 15 pounds heavier than what he was against Jared Anderson, which was one of the best performances of his career.
We're going to see the effects of that last fight once he gets hit by that ajagba right hand, which is his favorite punch. Big right hand, he stays at a distance, he sets it up behind a patient jab. That's how we're going to find out where Bakole's at in this stage of his career.
You know, Sergio, both these guys are uppercutters. They both are into throwing that uppercut. Ajagba will throw it with both hands. Bakole likes that rear uppercut. They love throwing that punch.
Head moving. Don't uppercut with an uppercutter. On the outside, it's all ajagba, and that's where he should be. You know, behind that long jab, he has that leaner frame. They're both the same height, but you can see that the mass is with Bakole. So just touching him downstairs to that soft belly would open up a right hand over the top. But you have to be very patient, of course, very careful with a guy like Bakole.
Yeah, and of course, that's the formula, Chris, that Michael Hunter used to defeat Martin Bakole years ago, and Bakole's promoter, Ben Shalom, has talked about maybe orchestrating that rematch if Bakole can get the victory here tonight.
I get the sense that Bakole wants that rematch, take the blemish off his resume. I'm not so sure Ben Shalom wants that. He may have eyes for bigger and better things for Martin Bakole. But I go back to that fight against Jared Anderson, which started a little bit like this, with Jared Anderson just pawing at the body of Martin Bakole. Then the last 20 seconds, Martin Bakole lands a big punch and puts Anderson on the deck.
Yeah, Anderson got a little bit too confident and stayed still for a little bit too long. And this is what ajagba is not doing. See, he's moving around the ring. He stayed a little bit against the ropes right there, but he has the distance, and he's keeping his range in between. As long as you don't get too close to Bakole, you're going to be all right.
Just slowly trying to creep his way forward here, looking for an opening to unleash one of those shots, maybe one of those drive-by uppercuts.
Yeah, guys like that, you can just outpoint. You know, he's giving you rounds like this. You can just keep touching the body, keep jabbing upstairs, move to your left, move to your right. Just do not stand still in front of this guy. And I love the fact that he alternated the jab for a 3 right there. He led with a hook just to land that right hand.
Nice right hand there from ajagba as we close round 1. Here in Riyadh, you heard the final instructions from Billy Nelson to Martin Bakole as round 2 begins. Good start to this fight here for F.A. Ajagba. And the quieter these rounds are, the better for Ajagba, as Bakole offers up a left hook there, caught by the right glove of Ajagba. Ajagba opening up a little bit here. There's a good right hand that landed right at the end of round 2. And Chris, as you pointed out, this isn't an unfamiliar pattern for Bakole fights where there's kind of a lull, it's very quiet, and then before you know it, there's a very large man shaking his hips in the middle of the ring because he just scored a knockout victory.
Yeah, it looked like Jared Anderson, first round, on his way to an easy 10-9 round. And Martin Bakole landed one of those kind of clubbing shots to change the fight. He is one punch away from changing the dynamic.
Yeah, guys like Bakole, you can outbox, but you got to be smart enough to know that that's their strategy. You know, they're going to lose rounds to just set up the big punch, the big knockout. Ajagba should, you know, I'm sure he did his studying and knowing that this man, he's a silent killer. You know, he's one of these guys that just waits for that right shot, the power shot, and he sets it up with jabs like that. Long arms.
So very few fighters have so much power without really stepping into those punches. I mentioned George Foreman. I'd put Vitaly Klitschko on that list as well. He just gets such pop off what is largely an arm punch.
Ajagba corner asking for a few more feints here as bakole picking up his activity here in the second round, at least relative to what he was doing in round one. Starting to jab his way in, touching the body there of Ajagba. Nice long-range right hand there, just grazes Ajagba.
It's funny, Corey, that we're looking at Ajagba as the boxer in this fight, since Ajagba came up as a heavy-handed guy, scary guy with power in both hands.
And you'd have to think that Ajagba will have to really lean on that athleticism in this fight. If this fight is at distance, it's good news for Ajagba. And if that is what he needs, it's good news for Ajagba, because his former strength and conditioning coach, who he was working with in Houston, Danny Arnold, who also trained Jadeveon Clowney, said that Ajagba compared favorably in athleticism to an NFL defensive back. I'll do it for round two. Better round for bakole, but perhaps another one in the bank there for a job
Together, like these Riyadh season shows and brought promoters together, you get real friendly real quick, Corey.
Well, these two certainly have not been friendly during the build-up to this one. Efe Ajagba and Martin bakole. The tempo's starting to pick up, and bakole starting to pick up the volume here in round three.
Yeah, this is what I want to see from bakole. He has to come forward. He can't let Ajagba keep picking him apart from the outside. Bakole needs to get on the inside, and the way to do that is breaking that distance with that jab, that long, strong jab.
Nice right hand over the top there from Ajagba. Bakole leaning back as he tries to jab to the body, but Ajagba found the antidote for that. Just bring that right hand over the top.
I would like to see bakole just throw that right hand right to the chest of Ajagba. He's not going to hit the head right now. It's too early in the fight. Just aim at the chest or the shoulder of Ajagba.
Huge right hand there from Ajagba.
That's the same punch he's been landing. It's a 3-2. He comes in the front door with a 3 going around the right hand of bakole.
He's catching bakole, Sergio, leaning to the right, so he's able to throw that chopping right hand pretty easily.
No, he's forcing him to the right with that left hand. He's keeping him there just to guide that right hand down the pipe.
There it is again. That right hand seemed to wobble. Bakole was trying to fire back with left hooks, but Ajagba is cooking here in round three.
Yep, at the outside, it's all Ajagba. The knees buckled from the big man right now.
And we ask questions if there were lingering effects from the knockout loss at the hands of Joseph Parker. It is that same kind of temple shot that seemed to affect him there.
If bakole is not going to get on the inside and not really try to double and triple his way in, he's going to be at the end of those punches, and it's only going to be a matter of time until you get cracked again with that right hand.
Pull counter right hand there from Ajagba, who's corner right now, telling him don't get lazy. In other words, keep up the activity. You've got something going here.
Ajagba is one of the better jabbers in the heavyweight division, so he's going to be comfortable keeping this fight on the outside.
These are exchanges where bakole can be dangerous, but it is Ajagba who is owning them at the moment.
No, these aren't exchanges, Corey. He's getting hit. He's getting pot-shotted by the sharper puncher in Ajagba. He moves off the ropes really nicely. He wants to stay off the ropes and keep the fight in the middle of the ring.
Good left hook there from bakole.
Stop pulling so much and keep your hands up. Stay sharp.
Final 20 seconds of round three. Bakole being given an opportunity here.
Come on, something.
This has been a fantastic round for Efe Ajagba.
Check this out.
Chopping counter there from Ajagba with his back against the ropes. And that will do it for round three.
Good round for Efe Ajagba, but I do think in the final 30 seconds, Martin bakole started to close the gap a little bit. We'll see if that carries over in this round.
I think Ajagba gave him that gap. He was comfortable against the ropes, and I think he was picking them, catching and countering.
Different strategy here for bakole, who's now framing up and just trying to muscle his way to the inside. I think realizing what you were pointing out there, Sergio, that trying to slip to his right, jab his way in, it wasn't quite working. This is better stuff for bakole.
Yeah, he needs to move that upper body. He needs to get in and break that distance. He can't stay at that range.
All right, let's send it over to Claudia Trejos, who was in the corners between rounds. Claudia, what are you hearing?
Thank you, Corey. They were actually echoing what Chris was saying. Bakole's actually smothering, trying to smother the reach on ajagba, and that's precisely what he wants to avoid. Stay away from the ropes, use your reach, use your movement, do not allow him to close the gap.
And this is the reason why Bakole popping the head back of ajagba with a huge left hook a moment ago. And this is exactly what Bakole wants.
Yeah, because ajagba's squared up. He's not at an angle. If he's squared up like that, it makes it easier for those left and right hooks to land.
Bakole's been stopped a couple of times, but I have more questions about the ajagba chin, given the caliber of competition that's either knocked him down or wobbled him.
Ajagba looked a little unsteady as he was navigating his way back to the ropes here, now trying to fight his way off the ropes. But he's got a Colossus in front of him, trying to keep him there.
I mentioned Foreman. This is like a Foreman-esque vibe, too, to a fight like this, where you just, if you're Bakole, you're just taking punches until you can land one that changes the fight.
Ajagba trying to counter with right hands against the ropes. There is the signature shot there from Bakole, that uppercut, and once those start flowing, that's when things really start rolling for Bakole.
Yeah, that's a beautiful shot for such a big man. And once he starts throwing that uppercut to the body and picking him up to the head, that's when you know it's getting good to him.
Don't be lazy,
You don't see the movement from Efe Ajagba that you saw for the first 3 rounds. A lot of laying on the ropes and in the corner.
Bakole, I love that right hand that just gutted Ajagba, breaking him in half.
Ajagba stationary in the corner. He's absorbing a lot of shots here, some of them on the arms. But those are heavy, heavy shots, just grinding Ajagba down.
And those shots, Sergio, the right hand is kind of that corkscrew right hand that Gennady Golovkin kind of made famous years ago, looking for that top of the temple shot.
Yeah, coming from top to bottom. If your opponent's not giving you an entrance, you got to go over the top.
It was a good response from Ajagba a moment ago. 4 straight punches down the pipe, but Bakole just keeps plowing forward.
You're being lazy in defense.
Round 5 underway, and there has been a major momentum shift in this one after a dominant round there for Martin Bakole. It looked like things are going well for Efe Ajagba, but again, we talked about that familiar pattern in Martin Bakole fights, and it is showing itself once more.
Yeah, flashes of that Jared Anderson fight. You know, this is how Anderson started. Boxing, moving, getting confident with that jab, straight right hands. But Bakole was slowly eating him up, slowly inching that front foot in the front door just to land that big right hand and uppercut. And they're yelling at Ajagba not to get lazy. It's not really that he's getting lazy. It's that he's being backed up by a bigger man that's taking his punches.
It's also got to be really difficult for a 240-pound heavyweight to use the entirety of the ring for the course of a fight. Like, Efe Ajagba is not a flyweight out there moving around. He's a big man. He's been being asked to work hard early in this fight.
Bakole just parking himself there against the ropes, taking a long time to load up that right hand, and this was the posture that was allowing Ajagba to have success in the first 3 rounds. Bakole corner asking him for head movements. Showing that right now, but it's only Ajagba offering up jabs at the moment.
Ajagba just barely missed that right hand. I think Bakole's getting a little bit lazy right now, trying to shoulder roll that right hand of Ajagba just to come back with his own, but I don't think he's quick enough to do that.
Yeah, he's looking to time Ajagba and land that counter right, but that's not really his game. His game is pressure.
I agree. And this is where Ajagba should take advantage of that. Just double and triple your way in and then get to the side of Bakole and start ripping those left uppercuts. Double, triple up the left uppercuts when you're on the side of him, on the left side of Bakole.
It's also a curious decision to try to take the round off in a fight that, you know, you had a good performance in the 4th round, but you're probably losing it.
Yeah, especially after a round, Chris, where it looked like the snowball was turning into an avalanche a little bit. There was a scary moment for ajagba, who just produced one there for bakole with a beautiful pull counter right hand.
The big man bounced off the ropes to try to land a right hand, and it was ajagba that rolled with it and got a bigger right hand.
Whose idea it was to change game plans like that in the 5th round, but it was a bad one.
Yeah, momentum shifted right back to Efe Ajagba.
Round 6 begins, and here comes the version of Martin bakole that was looking dominant. And right before the round began, Ajagba's corner told him to stay off the ropes as these two men resume their trash talking. And Chris Bendix, let's take a look at your scorecard.
Yeah, 4 rounds to 1 in favor of Efe Ajagba. First 3 were competitive, but pretty clean wins for Ajagba. Thought the 4th round was obviously Martin bakole landed his best shots of the night. Then there was that perplexing last round where Martin bakole decided to lean against the ropes and maybe give himself a bit of a break. But Efe Ajagba, 49-46 on my scorecard.
Nice right hand to the body there from Ajagba.
And bakole getting frustrated, saying, come on, man, stop and fight. But no, Ajagba shouldn't do that. He should do exactly what he's doing, bouncing on his feet, moving laterally, using the entire ring and keep popping that jab. That's how you win this fight. That's how you beat this big man. Beat him on your terms, not his. See bakole staying in the middle of the ring. He wants Ajagba to come to him. Ajagba shouldn't give him that.
Bakole attempting here, Sergio, what is a part of his game, kind of that psychological warfare. You know, he tries to intimidate opponents, and it works as he walks through your shots. That has happened to opponents of his in the past. It's imperative on Ajagba to stay disciplined.
Yeah, it's a lazy strategy by Martin bakole, you know, but sometimes fighters fall for that.
I don't think Efe Ajagba is one of those guys. Efe Ajagba, very good fighter. Got a good corner, too. Kei Karoma in the corner of Efe Ajagba, working with him for the last few fights. Very smart guy. And the advice we've been hearing coming from the corner of Ajagba is spot on. Stay off the ropes, keep moving, don't engage with this guy.
Yep, and you got to keep reminding them that, because sometimes, you know, it feels like you're winning really easily, and it just takes one shot, just like that just bloodied his nose right now.
And just a stiff jab from bakole, immediately producing some blood from the nose of Efe Ajagba. You saw him wipe it away. 45 seconds remaining here in round 6.
Right there. Look at your range. You right there. Shoot it. Here we go.
Ajagba's corner asking him to throw 1-2 downstairs.
That's actually a pretty awkward punch to throw. To throw a 1-2 downstairs. I've never heard of that. Because if you're the taller man, that once you throw that right hand, you're going to be vulnerable to something punching down. I don't like that advice. I like the jab or a single right hand, but a 1-2 to the body, I think that's bad advice to a tall fighter. Nice right hand there by bakole.
Good shot over the top there. Another good round in the bank. Round 7 underway, and Martin bakole had to be held back before the start of the round. We'll see if he keeps this pressure up. We've seen 1 round of this from him, Chris, but otherwise, this has been an easy fight, I think, to score for Ajagba.
Yeah, bizarre strategies over these last few rounds from Martin bakole. This round starting off the way it showed, Martin bakole applying the pressure and trying to get Ajagba back up against the ropes. That's what was effective for him in the 4th round, but in between, it's been sort of a strange night for Martin bakole.
Nice right hand that connected from Ajagba a moment ago. There's another one. Sergio, when he can throw that on the move, it's a punch that seems to be impacting bakole.
Yeah, and he's doing it moving backwards, and it's kind of like an anchor punch with that right hand. He keeps moving back, but you need to have athleticism to do that, and of course Ajagba has that. I think now there's an opening for a left hook for Ajagba, because every time that he feints at bakole or pretends to throw a jab, you can see bakole pawing at it. You don't paw at jabs like that, because then someone could come around, fake the jab, and come around with the left hook. I think that's an opening right now.
You know, I mentioned the weight of Martin bakole coming in, and that to me was as big a red flag as the quick turnaround. If you portend to have a good camp, full camp, and you still come in at 299 pounds, I understand he has been close to that weight in the past. I think Carlos Takam, he was right around that weight, but at his best, last year, when he fought Jared Anderson, he was 284. That was a guy that was in great shape. This is not a guy that looks in the best of shape.
Again, would be puzzling if that were to be the case. Bakole has been out here in Riyadh for weeks, training at the Mike Tyson gym, as we've referenced other fighters have been.
Head moving. Right in.
It's not unusual for Bakole to perhaps be content or not bothered by the fact that he's losing rounds. He's thinking knockout all the time. But you do wonder, as we've been watching him, does he have the gas tank to produce that? Nice counter right hand again there from ajagba, and then back with a stiff jab immediately.
Yeah, stopped on a dime just to counter him with that right hand. It's risky, but that's what you got to do to get the respect out of a monster like Bakole. He's going to keep coming. He's going to take your best shots. You got to keep giving him your best shots. He's bound to break down. The only way I could see ajagba losing this fight if he loses focus or gets lazy, like they've been telling him in the corner. Other than that, this is easy work for F.A. ajagba right now. Just keeping his range, bouncing on the toes, and popping that jab.
Right now, Sergio, I know you're not a fan of the rah-rah speech, but Martin Bakole needs a rah-rah speech. Martin Bakole's got to get going because this fight's slipping away from him.
A little bounce in Bakole's step. He's running after ajagba right now.
That may be part of the problem, too. He's running at him, not necessarily cutting the ring off.
You know, the reason I'm not a fan of those speeches is because if you have to be a cheerleader for a professional fighter, then he doesn't have to fight in them. You know, there's times where you can encourage him in a round that he looked bad, but if you have to do that every single round, Bakole only won one round pretty much. He's the one losing the fight, you know, so he's the one that should be mustering up the strength, knowing that he needs to break the distance, double his jab way in, just hit anything that ajagba gives you, but he is not doing that. Instead, he's complaining, getting frustrated, and just getting out jabbed.
I think there's always room for the old Angelo Dundee. You're blowing it, son. The Teddy Atlas. We're all firefighters. There's room for those kind of speeches in boxing.
They're great sound bites. A swim without getting wet as well by Nazim Richardson. But all in all, man, you want a fighter that
I mean, Bakole is begging ajagba to fight him, but ajagba's not doing anything wrong here, Sergio.
No, he's not. He's boxing and sticking to his game plan. This is his strategy.
Big shot hand over the top there from ajagba. Bakole might have connected in the midst of that, too.
Bakole he reminds me of a spider web. You know, he's just going to stand there and wait for the flies to come to him, but ajagba's not going to be doing that. He's not going to get stuck in that web. He's going to keep moving around, and Bakole's just going to stay in the middle of the ring following him.
You got to find a way to cut him off, Sergio, though. Like, just following him around is not going to be enough, especially with this being a 10-round fight and a little over 2 rounds to go.
Well, the body is what you got to do. So if he's moving to your right, you throw that right hook to get him to stop from going to the right.
Here we go, Bakole lands the floating left hook. It doesn't take much. Martin Bakole coming alive here. There were serious questions about whether he had this in him. The blood smearing across the face of ajagba as his corner begs him to get off the ropes.
Bakole punching with mean intentions. You can see that he punches through opponents. Every time he misses a shot, it just goes straight through the line of fire.
Good body work there from ajagba.
That's what I want to see Bakole do with both hands. Bakole's an excellent body puncher. Start digging away at the body, taking away the leg.
Big right hand there from Bakole. Scary.
And he He lives for this, man.
It's going to be a real test, Corey, of what F.A. Ajagba's got in him, because I think Martin bakole is going to finish strong here.
Round 9 is now underway.
I think this is the last round for Martin bakole to do something, because once that 10th round rings, adrenaline kicks in, knowing that it's just 3 more minutes for a fight to end, and Ajagba's just going to move with that adrenaline. So bakole better do something out of desperation in this round.
Yeah, I agree. The footwork is going to come back for F.A. Ajagba in that 10th round once he sees the light at the end of the tunnel.
Ajagba standing and trading here with bakole, a little less mobile. These are big opportunities for bakole. You'd have to think, based on how this fight has gone, needs a knockout, but it's Ajagba putting them together right now. Corner of bakole screaming at him to throw the uppercuts in those moments. That would be a good opportunity to let those go. Neat right hand there from bakole. And these are shots, but he doesn't need a big windup. He just needs to touch you to produce an adverse reaction.
Ajagba just with the short punches inside, bakole with the wide ones, and of course it's always the short ones that count. Ajagba's a smart fighter, really smart fighter, because he's great at distance, just like that when he has the range, but on the inside he doesn't pull back the punches. They're little short shots just to keep his opponent off him. See, right here, Ajagba, the only thing I would like to do is, whenever you're in a clinch, walk the big man back. Not only do big men hate being walked backwards, but bakole doesn't have the legs anymore. That's the only thing he needs to learn now. Back up big men like this.
Ajagba grinding out the clock a little bit here, not looking quite as spry as he was earlier, and how could he? He's been doing a lot of moving, and he's been taking shots like that every once in a while from bakole.
And another thing that clinching and walking your opponent back does is you're killing the clock, because by doing that, the referee can't break you. You're moving back until you hit the ropes, then you break up. That's going to buy you 10, 15 seconds. That's how you kill the clock.
25 seconds remaining here in round 9. Silent roller, F.A. Ajagba looking to be a clock killer.
Beautiful. I love that.
Nice right hand again over the top there from bakole. And we will head into the final round of this heavyweight contest.
Final round.
10th and final round of a fight that we did not think would go this long. And now you would have to think that F.A. Ajagba just needs to stay on his feet, but he's going to have a 300-pound monster rolling after him here for 3 minutes.
Not even stay on his feet, just stay at range. You know, keep popping the jabs, stay at range, and you're fine.
Yeah, and I've got an 87-84 in favor of F.A. Ajagba. Good run over the last 2 rounds by Martin bakole to close the gap. The first half of this fight was largely dominated by F.A. Ajagba. So 87-84. And I agree with you, Corey. Martin bakole needs something big to win this fight.
Now, if you're looking for historical hope here for bakole, obviously you look back to his own knockout power, but Chris, we saw Ajagba get hurt late by Guido Vianello recently as well, so there are questions perhaps about the endurance of Ajagba and whether he can be vulnerable in these moments.
Yeah, knocked down 2 in the 7th round by Frank Sanchez in their fight, so he is vulnerable. He does have a tendency to keep that chin up in the air. So far, he's fought a very disciplined fight. I mean, Martin bakole has been daring him to stay in the center of the ring. Why would he do that?
Ladies and
why would that make any sense? Great shot.
Wicked counter there from Ajagba, but look at bakole back with a 2-punch combination.
Keep moving, keep moving.
Ajagba navigating the perimeter of the ring.
If bakole would have fought like this earlier in the fight, I think Ajagba would have used a lot of nervous energy, and bakole would have been in a better position to get the knockout that he needs in this fight.
Got 70 seconds to produce it right now.
And that's not going to be enough, guys, because right now, Ajagba knows he's comfortably ahead and adrenaline running through his veins. He just knows that he needs to stay in the perimeter of the ring, moving to the left, moving to the right, and this big man doesn't have the foot speed to break that distance. Give up this round if need be, but Ajagba's already at the finish line.
When you get the feeling too, Sergio, that bakole, all these times he stood in the center of the ring, talking to Ajagba, telling him, hey, let's fight. It's almost like he's telling himself this story already. Hey, this guy ran away. He didn't come to fight. That's why I lost.
That's nonsense. That's fooling yourself. That's lying to yourself. You need to break that distance with jabs. You need to break it with foot speed. This is a flat-footed monster. He's only a beast if you come to him and stay in the same place. When you stick and move, then you exploit him.
Efe Ajagba is a stablemate of Jared Anderson with Top Rank. You saw what happened to Jared Anderson when he let his guard down and slipped. He has fought an excellent fight and the right fight based on his opponent.